high-profile interviews, and the radio and television broadcasts of Brannon House.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Live Up to Freedom. Thank you so much for joining me today. I greatly appreciate you joining me every time that we're live. Today we are live on worldviewtube.com. It's Rumble and X channel. Also, it's app. If you have not installed the app, head over to your app store. Look for WorldviewTube. Install it. It is for free, but it comes with a lot of good benefits to have. We're also live on X America News X on X. We are live on my platforms, Substack, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. And only today, we are also live on the Glazov Gang YouTube channel, and you'll find out why soon. I will be joined by a very special guest here shortly. And though against my doctor's advice, I was supposed to take 2 weeks off. I took last week off from camera, not the rest of the works, but this week was impossible. Literally impossible. The rest of the week has its own reasons, but today has its own solo reason. And it is the guest who's going to join me shortly. I have had the honor to know him for about 13 years. I have had the honor to work with him. I have had the chance to meet him in person, shake his hand, give him a big hug, though I'm not a hugger, and on many projects. I have even produced the Glazov Gang at times when he was sitting in for Dr. James Glazov. However, for whatever reason, in the last 13 years, I never had the chance to have him on my program. And there was no way possible I would take any doctor's advice and not get on air today, because I was not about to lose the chance of finally getting the chance to have him on my show after 13 years of working with him on different projects. I will take absolutely no moment of this show to talk about anything except him. So it is my absolute privilege and honor to introduce my guest this afternoon, Mike Finch. He's the president of David Horowitz Freedom Center. He's an author. He's a poet, patriot, fellow Christian. And as I said, for 13 years, I have had the chance to meet him, talk to him, work with him. And his recent book, his newest book, is out, and we get to talk to him about it. Hi, Mike. What an honor to have you on Live Up to Freedom.
I'm very grateful, Annie. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been great working with you for these many years, and being a kind of sub host for Jamie and working with you, and you're doing a great job in hosting these shows. So thank you for everything you do for Jamie and Front Page and the Freedom Center. And you match me in all those patriot. You were a true patriot and show incredible courage in everything you do. And I want to thank you for everything that you do for the cause of freedom.
Absolutely. And as I have said this on air, off air, privately, one of the main reasons I got the chance to do what I do has been the David Horowitz Freedom Center, Front Page, yourself, and Jamie Glazov. I was some shadow somewhere in the corner doing something irrelevant until you all trusted me with such a project. And for that, I'm always grateful. But
thank you, Annie.
Of course. Okay, so I'm going to admit that I haven't finished reading your entire book, but you know me. I start on the chapters that are more of my interest, right? No surprise. And so far from what I've read, I have been struggling to find the right terminology that is not cliche. So I have come to describe your book as an absolute truth bomb wrapped in a fragile love. Absolutely brilliantly written. To my audience, beauty of this book, you don't have to start and go to finish. You can pick a chapter, read that chapter, take call to action from it, understand it, put it down, go back next day and start another chapter. They are short chapters, but very concentrated, very detailed for you to grasp the idea. So a time to stand. Grab it from Amazon. And Mike, is it also available on Front Page?
It is, frontpagemag.com, and go to the bookstore. It is available there.
Perfect. Frontpagemag.com, go to the store there and grab it. But before I dive into all of my notes, I literally have printed notes because I have questions. I want to know this. Why did you decide to write this book? And what inspired you to write it so uniquely different?
Well, the essays, the poetry I've been writing for a number of years, many of them are current, but there's some that go back a few years. And I love to write. I've got a full-time day job with the Freedom Center, as you know, so finding time to write, as any writer knows, is always difficult. But I've written these, and I have to credit our mutual great friend, the editor of frontpagemag.com, Jamie Glazoff, who took these kind of assorted essays, the collection, and really put it together in a coherent kind of it's a piece of, and I want to be modest, but what he did, this is on him, really kind of created in a sense a piece of art with all the different articles and the introductions that he was able to put together by many of the writers, of course, that many we've interviewed, have been interviewed on the Glazoff gang. And I thank Jamie. I wrote all the articles, but it was his work and kind of piecing it together. This project would not have happened without Jamie. So I'd always wanted to publish my essays. But frankly, we always need help, right? We all have our strengths and weaknesses. Jamie was able to put this together. And I can't, like I said, I'm incredibly grateful for all the work that he did in making this book happen. And when you said, how do you define it, I'm really touched, because for me, and I kind of struggle with that, it's a love letter to America. I write about other things, Western civilization, some remembrances of people. There's articles about China and so forth, but really it is a love letter to America. And I think when you mentioned the word love, I think that's really what the book is all about, in the dire hour to defend American beauty.
Absolutely agreed. Yes. And of course, any chance I get to say Jamie Glazoff is the man when it comes to writing, telling the truth, doing amazing deep dives on interviews. And of course, he is also my boss. But I'm not saying any of this because he's my boss. It has been such a journey to work with Jamie in the last 13 years, Mike. And I agree. He has that talent. He sees, when it comes to writing words in front of him, he sees it in a very different way. Which now we're talking about Jamie. To my audience, Dr. Jamie Glazoff himself has some amazing books out there. And me personally, I'll always tell you, if you haven't read them, United in Hate and Jihadist Psychopath, you need to read those two books. That's all. You just need to.
Yeah, he's a brilliant thinker, brilliant writer. I've learned a lot listening to Jamie, and we're good friends, and we've worked together for over 20 years, of course. And I know you've known Jamie a long time. He's one of the most brilliant thinkers that I've ever, and we worked for David Horowitz for over 20 years, of course, and learned a lot from David. But Jamie's he's a philosopher. He's a great writer. He really is a philosopher. I hope he's got a lot more books in him. I know that United in Hate is coming out as a reprinted, updated version soon. I can't wait to see that. So and I can't wait to see what else Jamie has in the future, because like I said, he's a brilliant philosopher, writer, and thinker, and I thank him again.
Agreed. And however, with that being said, again, reading your book, and I'm glad I understood it correctly, because the more I read, it was like, definitely, there's a lot of painful truth that you wrote, but every single word, every single sentence, paragraph, chapter is wrapped in this beautifully fragile love letter. And it touched me deeply. I mean, it should touch everyone. Anyone who reads a line of this book should be touched that your message in this book is not hatred. It's not against one individual versus other. It's not even about politics or parties or policies. It is your deep love for America and her beauty. And that's how you even start the book. But one thing I want to start with on this segment, you call America's decline a cultural crisis, a rot in our soul. Expand on that, please.
Well, you can look at all the signs. America, and I try not to lean too much on nostalgia. I talk about that, but America is changed, I think, tremendously in our lifetime, and I don't think all for the better. I mean, crime, unemployment, depression. There's a sense of lost connection in Americans. We see that with the rotting out of the manufacturing base of the working class. Life expectancy is down. Cost of living is up. Real wages have been down, and I know some of that President Trump is addressing, and there is some improvement. But there's no question with drug usage, depression, mental illness, homelessness. You drive through, I talked about that in one of the essays, you drive through the streets of LA, and to say that it has been better and it should be better than it is now. I mean, America, the homeless problem in San Francisco and Los Angeles and these cities, it didn't exist at this level, anywhere near this level 20 years ago, much less 50 years ago. So again, without just leaning on nostalgia, I think it's fair to say that America, and culturally, I think, has seen a lot of decline. And that's what, when we talk about what ails us, something is ailing us. I think, whether it's a lost kind of spiritual connection, whether it's the technological revolution, which is changing our lives dramatically and trying to adapt to that. Again, the loss of working class manufacturing jobs. I feel like America is adrift, and there's too many signs to kind of argue that it's not that everything is great and everyone is doing great. I think Americans can kind of sense that something is off, and I think it is kind of a rot in our soul, and without becoming, look, I mean, I do think there's a religious aspect to this, and I'd like to think that it's possible that America could be ready for another great awakening. It's possible, almost impossible to predict, but I think America needs something. And in the book, I talk about American history and American culture. We need to reach back and find the beauty of that. It's to have a united purpose, because there's no question that our culture is ailing, and that I think America is very much adrift. I really do believe that.
Agreed. And I guess the reason I wanted to start here, by the way, for my audience, this is chapter 6. All the chapters I've read so far are amazing, but chapter 6 got me. It got me because that's what got me. Though I am aware that the crisis we're facing in America is not about policies and parties and any of that. We're past that point. But that I think, to me, the accountability you put back on us. The crisis America is facing is us. Right?
It is. It's a personal crisis. It's a cultural and societal crisis. It's the loss of community. I mean, you can go through the list of what has happened to this country, and there's forces. I mean, we are personally responsible, right? I mean, there is that aspect. There's other forces that have helped, I think, kind of push the decline in our living and in our culture that we need to address. So we're not blameless. This is on us, and I particularly. There's a loss. I think Christianity, it's very vibrant in America. There's no question. But I think there's kind of a crisis in Christianity in America as well, dealing with these and I talk about there's changes in our culture, changes in our lives that are, Andy, that are incredibly dramatic. And I think it's difficult for us to try to catch up with all of those. And I think the technological, what's happening, and now with AI being introduced, this is more dramatic than the Industrial Revolution. And we have to, as human beings, as citizens, we have to deal with that and how that impacts on community and culture and us as individuals. I think there is kind of a crisis, and how we can deal with that, I think is going to make the difference. And can we pull through, and then can the country pull through? These are dire times. I'm very optimistic in the sense that I believe in the faith of the American people. We do have faith, and the majority of Americans, I know, you look at what's going to be happening in New York in the next week or so, would tell you that maybe we're really going in the wrong direction, and there is no hope. There's a number of signs like that, but overall, I think the majority of Americans, the common sense and the faith of the American people, I think we have to lean on and believe in. But the cultural indicators are not good, and that needs to be addressed. I think a lot of prayer, and again, maybe there is a great awakening coming, and that may be what we need to kind of save this country.
Amen. Guys, we're up for our first ad break. Don't go anywhere. And we are live, so I'm looking at the comments. If you have any questions, any comments for Mike or myself, feel free to put them on the comment section. I will glance at them and I will grab them. But don't go anywhere. This discussion is just getting started. We'll be right back. Well, hello, everybody. It's Annie Cyrus. Welcome to my artist studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. But I'm sure, or at least I hope, I'll see you at lutfstudio.com. Welcome back to Live Up to Freedom. Thank you so much for staying with me until now. I greatly appreciate that. And remember, our pre-Christmas sale will end this Friday. We're going to stop the sale until we run our Black Friday sale, and then we're going to go back to our actual Christmas sale, which will not be as good as it is today. So if you have any purchases to make, you may want to do it before Friday. lutfstudio.com. That's lutfstudio.com. Running at 30% off across the store. That will end this Friday. So tell your friends, your family members who are making purchases for Christmas now, which I think it's time, to go ahead and make whatever purchase they need. Also, remember, you can send in a request for custom orders. You see an item, it is not in your favorite color or color combination. Just click on contact the seller on my page, and you write me a message saying, hey, I like this ornament or this cross, but I want the following colors involved, and I will get back to you, and we're going to get your orders going. And remember, this and my Substack are my only way of funding my life while I do the show and the writing and the research and the reporting. So your support is always greatly appreciated. Let's get back to our wonderful guest today, Mike Finch. His newest book is out. Guys, grab it. A Time to Stand. You have got to get a copy of this book. And by end of this show, you know why. And I don't know, you need to read it. Especially if you're one of those Americans who have lost hope, or one of the Americans who have come to somewhat feel like America is not as good as you think she is. This book will remind you of things that you need to be reminded of. And it will also give you the understanding of why you need to stand and defend America. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about America. Okay, Mike, if you don't mind, I want to go to the next chapter, not necessarily chapter 7, but the other chapter of your book that you wrote something. Again, I understand you said these were over time, but it's very close to my heart because, as my audience know, I've been almost literally screaming on top of my lungs for the last month and a half regarding this new illusion that's going on through our current administration in Middle East, which is the everlasting peace that's flying around. You said, forgive me guys if I mispronounce some words, some of them are way over my English, but you said, we yearn for peace, but peace is elusive. Peace in our lives, peace in the world, it has never been. I am in 100% agreement with you, especially just, as a follower of Christ, we all know the truth. We know this is the truth. But my question is, between politics, diplomacy, and desperate need for peace, is this where Americans are becoming blind to evil and call some of this deals made with the devil as peace deals?
Well, yeah, I mean, if you think of the deal with Hamas and Israel, I understand that you have to try to make a deal. I'm not going to completely fault Donald Trump for wanting to come to some kind of deal, and you need to have all sides talk and all that. But in this case, Annie, I mean, look, you can't have peace with Hamas. It is absolutely impossible. Hamas needs to be eliminated. They refuse to recognize the right for Israel to exist. As long as that is the case, peace is not possible. And I've deferred to, and I know you've had, he's been on the show many times, Robert Spencer, I think has emphasized this point very well. How do you, when someone doesn't recognize your right to exist or even to live, to exist as a country or as a people, how are you going to have peace? Peace is not possible. So, look, I believe in, and I do believe in peace, and I think that we've rushed off to too many wars, nation building. I don't like the term isolationist, but I do think America needs to be a little more careful in the idea that we're going to create these utopian democracies in countries like Afghanistan. It's not going to happen. So I think striving to stay out of these wars, to stay out of conflict, to protect America's interests is really critical. Israel is a key ally and a very important ally, really our only friend and true ally in that region. And they are surrounded by people that refuse to recognize their right to live in freedom and peace. And they don't recognize from the river to the sea means it needs to be Jude free. All the Jews are going to need to be either killed or moved out, moved out of that country. So peace can't exist. Peace cannot exist with Hamas. This is not going to work. It may be a kind of you put the finger in the dike and there may be kind of a semi-ceasefire. We know what Hamas is doing. They're going to rebuild. They signed the agreement because they know they were getting ready to be eliminated. Israel was going to eliminate Hamas and truly kind of take them out. But they had to sign something, and Robert would understand the term in Islam where it's a temporary peace, but it's not a permanent peace because you're not going to have peace until you until they eliminate Israel. That's in their charter. So I think it is an illusion. The idea of, look, I appreciate what Trump's trying to do. But I wish Robert Spencer was advising the White House to say, look, I mean, you need to come to kind of some terms with just exactly who Hamas is. And I don't think our administration has or if they do have a clear view of that, they're ignoring that in the hopes of that this is going to work. But as I'm sure you are, and I'm incredibly skeptical. I don't see this peace lasting at all.
Well, of course, I agree 100% with you and Robert on that. And again, from moment one, before the moment the 21 points came out, I was the first one to say no. One, it's not going to happen. It's clear not going to happen. Two, when are we going to stop rewarding these terrorists? For so many years, I wrote a Substack that's scheduled to come out tomorrow, November 4th. As you might remember, most of my audience might remember, November 4th, 1979 is when our embassy in Tehran was pretty much taken over, and 66 Americans who were in there were taken hostages. 52 of them ended up being in captivity for 444 days. And 46 years later, tomorrow, or today as we talk, look at what we've done with our enemy. I'm going to put Hamas aside for 1 second, go to Iran. 46 years ago, tomorrow, they took our home. An embassy in a country is your soil. It's yours. They crawled up all these walls with weapons. They took our paperwork, confidential information. They humiliated our people, walking them with handcuffs and blindfolds on, kept 52 of them in captivity, to some of them later testifying how they were facing fake execution. They were facing torture. Some of them were starved. And when you look back, Mike, to this day, Iran never paid a price for that day, did they?
No, look, and that's in any other world, in any other, that's a declaration of war. You're right. That's the sovereign territory of the United States. That is a declaration of war. And I'm not saying we want to start doing everything that like China and Russia would do, but I got to tell you, if Iran tomorrow stormed the Chinese embassy and started torturing or killing Chinese diplomats, I don't think China would just say, maybe let's send a helicopter into a sandstorm and then wait for 3 years or really 40 plus years to have some kind of retaliation. It's mind-boggling that we allowed that. And look, this is a sworn enemy of the United States. We're the great Satan. They want us. They want us to be eliminated. And they have done nothing in the last half century other than try to destroy the United States or attack the United States. Through their terrorist proxies, Hamas and Hezbollah, to try to take down or destroy the state of Israel. And we're still kind of doing this, like negotiating. Let's go. The Barack Obama deal was a disaster. I'm glad Trump pulled out of that. But I don't understand why. Sometimes I feel like we're coddling the Iranian regime. We had an opportunity. There's been several times that you know this much better than I do, where the Iranian people were close to at least, they're speaking out. There's been a couple of opportunities where there could have been a breakthrough to overthrow that regime from within, and we just kind of turned the other way and really gave our approval of the regime and not the movements towards democracy in that country. And again, I'm not saying we need to go in there and nation build. I think Iranians can take care of themselves, but a little support or a little of encouragement. There are things that we could do. Bombing the nuclear sites was, thank God that Trump did that. There are some things that we've done that are an improvement over the Biden or Obama years, but I think there's still so much more that we could do to help the Iranian people.
Absolutely. And again, it goes back to consequences. America I came to 24 years ago, my understanding of America was we're the tough guys. We don't stand for injustice. We don't negotiate with terrorists. We don't tiptoe around other countries' feelings. And we have certain values and we stand by them. When we look around today, and again, this isn't just on Trump. The Substack that's going to come out, you'll see I tracked it all the way from Carter during the hostages until today. Left or right doesn't matter. You look at Hamas, you look at Hezbollah, you look at Houthis, you look at Muslim Brotherhood is still not designated a terrorist group in America. Why?
Right.
Why? So all of course, this is my passion to constantly talk about, but point comes back to lack of accountability and the deep desire by Americans for this everlasting peace. And not to be super mean, but why are we so worried about peace? It's not like we face the consequences all the time. Look at the people of Israel. If they were desperate for peace, I would understand. They go to bed with flip-flops on, ready to run into their shelters.
Yeah,
but us,
absolutely.
Why are Americans so desperate for some sort of everlasting peace? Why?
Well,
you want peace?
There's always kind of yearning for peace. I understand that. We don't want to be in a perpetual war, but you have to prepare. You always have to prepare for war. I mean, we seek peace, but you have to be prepared for conflict. You think back when Thomas Jefferson was president, the Barbary pirates were capturing and enslaving and imprisoning American naval or Europeans, but also actually attacking American ships. We sent the Marines and the Navy there. We didn't try to conquer the country, but we certainly beat them back. I mean, you have to, these things, we should have, Jimmy Carter should have done something, but we've had over 40 years to try to redress that and tell Iran, look, that was a declaration of war. But they're at war with us, obviously. And we can say that we want peace and we don't want war, but the other side has some determination in that as well, right? When Germany invaded Poland, Poland can't say, well, we don't want the war. Well, Germany wanted the war, so you better get ready to fight the war. Iran is at war with us. When are we going to understand that we've been in a war with them for almost a half a century, and we've really, other than a few small measures, we don't do anything. And what signal does that send to the world? When the U.S. coal was bombed, when they bombed our embassies, when they it was Iranian proxies that killed our Marines in Beirut, right? So, and we just kind of tried to find some kind of diplomatic solution or brush it under the rug. I don't know. And look, I'm a lover of peace, and that comes across in the book, I think, pretty clear. But there are times when we have to defend ourselves. We have to defend what is in the interests of the United States. And when we don't do that, we show a lot of weakness. And the world is full of countries and movements and governments that understand power and weakness, and they sense weakness in America, and that's why we continue to find ourselves in these kind of crises where we are being attacked, because they keep testing us. And where is our mettle? And that is a real concern. So you're absolutely right, Annie, and I'm glad you're focusing on this. Can't wait to see that show.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Guys, we're up for our next ad break. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. We'll be back to continue this discussion right here.
Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at wvwfoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview.
Welcome back to Live Up to Freedom. Thank you so much for staying with us until now. I greatly appreciate it. And one more reminder, guys, it is November 3rd, so the clock reset itself. I do need 30 of you guys who can possibly step up and become a paid subscriber on my Substack. And those who are have left plenty testimonies on my pages to let you know that it is worth becoming a paid subscriber. It is $8 a month or $80 for 1 year sign up, and you get some seriously deep dive exposés that are exclusively behind paywall. So until end of this month, I pray that 30 of you will pray, and Lord will put it in your heart to become a paid subscriber. I greatly appreciate your support. Okay, let's dive back in. I don't want to run out of time. I want to ask all the questions. I want to discuss all the topics. So let's go back to our wonderful guest, Mike Finch, author of A Time to Stand. Go to Amazon or frontpagemag.com. Click a store, grab a copy, start reading, because it's gonna go boom, boom, boom. Every single essay is gonna get you going on thinking and thinking and thinking some more. So grab a copy of it. Okay, back to your wonderful book, Mike. This one was very fascinating for me because I have I had no idea this is what you're looking at. So I'll just read what you said, and then if you could enlighten me and my audience, those who may not understand your claim. You argue that World War I destroyed Western Christian civilization. How?
Well, pre-World War One, the royalty ran most of those kind of the Russian Empire, the Austrian Empire, of course, the German Empire. These were all Christian. They were at peace. Europe was in a position of great strength across the world, I think, and unsurpassed economically, culturally. World War I was actually totally destroyed a generation of men from these countries. There were millions died. And I'd still say, for what? I'm not saying there wasn't any sacrifices made, but I guess to fight the world, to save the world for democracy, as Woodrow Wilson, that is incredibly foolish. I don't think America should have ever gotten in that war. That war should have never started. That's one of those cases where there should have been some kind of peace settlement. Look what happened. The Russian Empire, it was changing. It was moderating. There was great change coming in Russia under the Tsars. The Tsars and the Russian Empire collapsed. Communism came. Tens of millions of people died. The German Empire collapsed. The monarchy fell, and then we had 20 years, and then Hitler took over, and then tens more millions of people died. I think the Christendom, the West before World War I had a confidence in itself as a great Christendom. I think had a great confidence, and I think all collapsed after World War I. I think you saw this in the 20th century. Europe, I think, talk about losing your soul. I think they lost so much, and they really lost everything in World War I. I don't think Europe and the world have ever recovered. And Europe has lost its place, lost its confidence in how proud that Europe was, and they should have been proud. It was a great civilization. There are still great things with Europe, but Europe is collapsing. You talk about what ails America. You see what's happening in France and in Great Britain with massive Muslim immigration. They're losing. Talk about losing your culture. Will some of these countries, I have an article in there talking about Germany and France, will they become Islamic in some time in the future? I think you'd be foolish to say that will never happen. And I really look to World War I as the war that really decimated. They lost their soul. They lost their confidence. And I think that was a death knell for Christendom. What we thought of as Christendom for centuries, it is never. Europe has never recovered. Certainly, America did not have to bear the brunt in that war, and we survived that war. I think culturally, somewhat. Although even America changed dramatically. I think after World War I, we became much more cynical in our culture, in our art, and again. The World War II is really the extension of World War I. So I think great devastation was done to the Christendom, and primarily due to World War I. If I'm explaining that as best as I can, it was a devastating war. It was an unnecessary war. And I think we're living with the consequences, and we will for a very long time.
Yes, I understood. And it does make sense. And since you mentioned, I actually have on my notes that you did say, you predicted that Germany will be Islamic in about 2 decades, not by conquest, by invasion. And you also did mention that Christianity died in the fields of Flanders and the churches of Germany are empty. Now, I know you said Germany, but I will agree. But here's my question for you. Did Europe lose or never recovered, and there was a void to be filled by Islam? Or is Islam the reason that Europe churches are empty?
Well, I think the void was filled initially with communism, fascism, and Nazism. I mean, that, again, T.S. Eliot's poem, The Wasteland, really, I think probably the greatest, most impactful, important piece of literature written in the 20th century talks about how Europe had fallen. Europe had lost its soul, lost its confidence, lost its faith in God. I think that it was crushing. World War I was crushing. So what came out of that, you can understand, looking beyond, hindsight's 2020, right? But you look back now in the 1920s, why were people pulled towards communism, fascism, Nazism? Because democracy, the monarchies, had failed. I mean, there was this great loss of confidence in the government systems in Europe. So they started reaching out to all these other ideologies, all these isms. And of course, that was in complete destruction, right? Tens of millions of people died. So they never, Europe economically recovered, but I don't think their soul, I don't think their culture ever fully recovered from the disaster of World War I and then the conclusion in the Second World War. And they just don't have that kind of confidence. And you look I did a review of Michael Hollenbach's book on what's happening in France. It's a novel, but he talks about how France will just acquiesce. There's not going to be everyone thinks there's going to be this great civil war and that Europe will save itself. Charles Martel will come back and will defeat the Moors. What Michael Hollenbach and what I fear and what Batyor and some of the other really thinkers on this, Oriana Fallaci feared, is they're going to take over. It'll be a quiet revolution, right? There will not be a civil war. Europe will just acquiesce. They will kind of bend the knee and they will give in to a much stronger force because Islam believes in itself. It has the confidence, and it's a conquering philosophy, ideology. And Europe, I just don't see them having the mettle and the courage to stand. They will just kind of slowly give in, and I think that's a real threat. So I see that possibly happening in countries like Germany and France. And it sounds crazy. People will say, well, it's only 15% of the population. Well, Annie, that you get to 15, you get over 20. What's happening in England and France today, in particular, but also Germany with the open border. They are going to lose. They're going to lose their countries. They will lose their countries if they don't stop this flow, a massive flow of immigration. And I don't know how they're going to address that. I don't know if they even can. Maybe it's too late. A lot of people would say it is too late. France is gone. England is gone. They certainly are not the same France and England that they were, 20 years ago, much less 50 years ago. Certainly not 100 years ago, when in a sense they kind of ruled the world. They don't rule the world. They hardly even rule themselves anymore. So I think there's a real fear that Islam will become the dominant faith, and that they will then have really take over, I think, the governing institutions in Europe. I think that's very possible in our lifetime.
Absolutely. And I can't help but to think part of it, Mike, is at some point, Europe decided to punish itself from the guilt of World War I, World War II, the privileges, the cards that were being passed around, and they decided to punish themselves. They decided to punish. The same thing is applying, of course, to America on a smaller scale, where I've seen a lot of Americans who feel very guilty for not allowing illegals or legals into the country because we have a better life. They're so poor. They're so desperate. Part of what happened at the beginning of Islamization of Europe genuinely feels like a punishment, self-punishment. It's like, okay, let's make up for what we did. Let's make up for all the borders we started drawing in Middle East and, breaking down nations and countries and starting wars. However, UK started small. UK couldn't even defend itself early on, but then it became, the Great Britain. I don't think it's too late. However, I don't know if enough people in power are aware and willing to reverse the damage. We know right now the King of England is definitely all about globalism. So that stops the reverse process, right?
Yeah, I mean, there are, look, I mean, there's always hope. You can always have hope, and there's always faith. I think America is not as far along as Europe is, because we still have tremendous faith in this country. I mean, the Christianity is, you could say it's maybe in decline in some sense, but there's also signs that Christianity is very robust in this country. So I'd like to think that, and even though we have, especially under Biden and Obama, but Donald Trump has tried to seal the border as best as he can. We do have kind of an open door, open border. We've kind of lost our sovereignty. But most of the people that are coming into America, there's drugs and criminals and all that. But most of the people coming into the country are not coming here to impose Sharia law and overthrow the government of the United States. There is that element, certainly. You see it in Dearborn and Minneapolis and pockets. So the warning signs are there, but we're nowhere near where, let's say, France and England are. But again, when you lose that confidence in your own system, in this, you're right, you mentioned something that's really important, Annie, is this kind of, and we're seeing that in America too, unfortunately, this self-loathing of our own history. We have to apologize for everything. America's racist, sexist, we are imperialistic, we're genocidal, all these things. If you don't believe in your culture and in your country, if you don't have faith in that kind of history and culture, then you're not going to be able to defend it. And then you will be overrun by another civilization. That's inevitable. I think that's what's happening to Europe. They have really no confidence in what it means to be a German, and you're right, that's guilt. But France and England too, you talked about, paying the price of colonialism. Well, the greatest colonial power were the Arabs. And that's not, I'm not saying that's either a positive or a negative. That's just a fact of history. Arabs colonized all the Mediterranean world, the Middle East. They went all the way to Indonesia. I mean, so, this is and half of, they almost had half of Europe. So that was in the sense of great. It was a great imperialistic power, right? Are they apologizing for that? Yet France has to apologize for being in Syria for about 20 years. I mean, but that's where, this kind of self-loathing, and that's where I go back again. You lose in World War I, they lost everything. And I think you lose your confidence in their own civilization really, in a sense, collapsed. And I think when you lose that confidence, then there's no way you're going to be able to defend yourselves. America still has that, although, we're teaching the Howard Zinn version of history in American schools. There's a lot of self-loathing here as well. We don't even teach about American culture. So, and that's one of the reasons why I think we need to defend we have a beautiful aspirational history and culture. You believe in it as an immigrant. I think a lot of Americans do. But a lot of, we are being attacked, and we won't get into the whole, this is what the left wants, right? Attack the culture, attack the history, attack our faith, attack our family. In order to create utopia, they need to destroy the present civilization. And that's what they're trying to do, and that's what we're up against.
Agreed. Guys, we're going to take our very last ad break. We'll come back to conclude the show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home, went to bed.
Welcome back to Live Up to Freedom. Thank you so much for staying with us until now. I greatly appreciate it. And even if we don't get attacked, even there's no disaster, guess what? Season's here. You do need one of those kits because flu, cold, pneumonia, they're all going to start hitting soon. So worldviewhealth.com, grab your kit or kits or different options. And that way you support Worldview too, but that is supporting voices like mine. Easy connection. Worldview, I forgot. Thomas, what was the link? Worldviewhealth.com. I almost had it. Head over and pick up a kit or two, or hey, get some for your kids who have kids. Okay, we only have a little bit of time. I don't know how much time I have. Okay, we just have a little bit of time, about 10 minutes, maybe less than that. So I want to make sure to talk about this with you, Mike, before we conclude our discussion. First of all, again, I'll remind my audience, you want to grab a copy of this book. The Kindle version is available, hard copy is available. Grab a copy, remind yourself, read it, and remind yourself, as Mike said, there is so much to be proud of. Are we in great shape today? Absolutely not. Have our leaders made major mistakes? Absolutely. However, you should still sit here today and be a proud American. Every nation, every country, every land have had its dark days. That does not make us evil. We haven't done half of the things they lie about us doing. So grab a copy, read it. You can get it on frontpagemag.com, or you can get it on Amazon, whichever one is easier. I strongly recommend you grab a copy. Mike, your chapter 3 touched me in a different way. I actually have goosebumps of bringing it up. Your chapter 3 touched me in a bit of it made me a little worried, at the same time so hopeful. It's almost like you're talking about, or you're touching on a near-death experience, but then you say death isn't coming today. What is the message there? Or what are the messages there? I don't want to spoil, so I don't say much more for those who grab a copy and read chapter 3, guys, chapter 3. If you want goosebumps, read chapter 3. What is the message there? Death is not coming today.
Well, before I do that, not only are you a wonderful talk show host, Annie, but you're a beautiful artist. You really are. And I have a piece of your art. I hope people go to the website and look at your art and purchase your art, particularly before Christmas. So you really have created some beautiful pieces of art. So thank you for that. Yeah, that was an experience. I mean, I think we all, we never know when death is coming, obviously. And we all have we have all those fears. We all have those moments. It's going to come eventually. And there's moments when you can kind of get a hint of it. When I was driving in those mountains and you kind of feel, the heart's racing, and you feel that, and you kind of come to terms with, we all think we're going to live kind of not forever, but none of us expect that we're going to go early. But, we don't know. And reflecting, and in that sense, reflecting when I was talking about the mountains and the snow and the snow caps in the distance, and finding that kind of elusive, that's where peace is really elusive. It's going to be difficult in the world with all the conflicts, but finding peace for ourselves. We're never going to have that perfect peace here. It's going to come later and in the next life, right? When we hopefully all go to heaven, or whatever comes next. That's where we would like to think, or I'd like to think, that we find that perfect peace. But we get glimpses of it here. And when you have kind of a health crisis or a personal crisis, you can look beyond. And in that sense, although I literally was looking at mountains with snow caps on it, you look to that and that kind of clean air and the evergreens. And I try to use that as a descriptive way to say that peace is there. No matter what happens, there is something coming after all of this. We all agree, at least as Christians, that we're original sin. We're flawed. The divide between good and evil is in all our hearts, as Solzhenitsyn said. So we're not going to have that utopia here. We're not going to have that perfect peace here. It is elusive. We can search for it and try to find it. But in those moments when we're in despair, we can see it. We have to visualize it, envision it, and pray for it, that peace is out there. In this sense, I was talking about the mountains, of course, but I was really using that as a sign that no matter what kind of crisis we're in, peace is waiting for us. So it will be there if we prepare ourselves.
Beautifully said. Yes. And I would add that even in that moment, as you said, we all have experienced that moment. Even in that moment, if we have put our faith in God, if we have trusted our Lord and Savior, even in that moment, deep down, there is a peace. There might be a panic. There might be a moment of shaking, but deep down in our heart, we have the peace we desperately desire. But sadly, it normally takes that much of trouble or crisis for us to tap into it. Mike, I know you have an event, Center's Luncheon, November 20th, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, if I got that information correct. If you could put that banner on a screen for our audience. This will be in Los Angeles, of course. But can you tell my audience, I know I have a pretty good number of audience who are from that area. So what can they be expecting? How can they get in? And what is the event about?
Well, it's, we have a regular, we do about 9 of these lunches a year with, not always with an author with a book, but we try to have an author with a book, and they're held in Los Angeles. And then we do have a great base of support the Freedom Center does in Los Angeles. So we bring in writers and thinkers, people like Victor Davis Hanson, Heather McDonald. I mean, the list goes on. And it's hard to promote, myself, and it's hard to promote my own event, but I'm going to be speaking on November 20th about A Time to Stand in Los Angeles. You've got the dates up there, 11:30. It's at the Four Seasons in Los Angeles. You can go to frontpagemag.com, and we have an event section on the side. You can click on that and register. So hopefully we'll have a really nice crowd. It's a great event. We have a great community. Look, California is pretty far gone. LA is a mess. But there's a very strong conservative community in Los Angeles, and we get some really great speakers and some great crowds to attend these events. So thank you for mentioning that, Annie. I'm excited and a little nervous, of course, but I'll be speaking on November 20th for the Freedom Center.
There you go, November 20th. My lovely supporters and audience in Los Angeles, California. If you are still in Los Angeles, California, that means you still love America, you still love California, and you are part of the freedom fighters in LA. So make sure to go to frontpagemag.com, find the information, be there. I wish I could be there on November 20th, but I can't. But you need to show up. Show up to support, first of all, show up to support David Horowitz Freedom Center. Though we lost a great man, David himself, but his legacy lives on through these projects, the amazing Shellman Fellowship, Daniel Greenfield, Robert Spencer, Jamie Glazoff, the one and only Mike Finch, these books, these seminars, these webinars, these information. So you gotta be there. If you are in Los Angeles, be there at, 11:30 is the event. I'm guessing they open doors at 11. Look, even my cat is excited about this event, but I'm going to put her down because she's destroying my desk. So show up, support, and listen, your books are going to be available for people to purchase that day?
They'll be available that day. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay, so make sure to show up. Last time, before we go, Mike, frontpagemag.com is where they can get the book. They can also find your own writing of different articles that you submit there as well, right?
Yeah, I posted a number of articles up at Front Page, and great writers. I mean, again, hats off to Jamie Glazoff, who's been the editor for 20 plus years, but Daniel Greenfield, Mark Tapson, Robert Spencer, Bruce Bauer, Bruce Thornton. We have some incredible writers. Our new articles every day. It's really, it's the flagship of the Freedom Center. And Annie, I want to thank you again for everything you've done for the Freedom Center. The Glazoff Gang is a really important show. It's a great show. Jamie's got some great guests, and I know he would not have been able to do the Glazoff Gang without you and all your help. So thank you for everything you've done for Jamie, the Glazoff Gang, and the Freedom Center. So we're very grateful.
Absolutely. It has been an honor, and I look forward to the rest of time, whatever Lord has planned for me and the center and yourself and Jamie to continue working together as we fight for this beautiful America that is worth fighting for. I appreciate you, Mike. You know how much I love you. You know how much I am always grateful for you just being you, aside everything else you've done for many of us. Stay strong, keep up the good work, and I look forward to finishing your wonderful book soon.
No, Annie, thank you. This has been wonderful. Again, thank you. I'm very grateful for you having me on. So thank you, and God bless everything you do.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. To our audience, I have about a minute, and I will take this minute again to apologize for Emma. She's getting bigger, so she's learning how to jump on top of this table. That's all right. Grab a copy of that book. If you're not in LA, if you cannot make it to November 20th, if you can, hold off until you get the book. And, I'm pretty sure he will sign it for you. And it's a great way of showing support. If you're not making it to November 20th, head over to frontpagemag.com. That's frontpagemag.com. Grab a copy or go to Amazon, grab a copy. Most of you know me. Like I barely print out parts of a book. It has been fascinating, as I said, hard to read certain parts, but then that beautiful shell of love around it has given me more strength. liveuptofreedom.com is the website. liveuptofreedom.substack.com is where you can support me through my writing. lutfstudio.com is where you can support me by purchasing my art pieces, as I will add inventory, I promise. I will be back tomorrow. Same time, same places, except the Glass Off Gang YouTube. That was only today because my guest was Mike Finch. I will see you tomorrow, and until then, stay.
Tonight on the Worldview Weekend Hour, Revelation, Lesson 52, Paradise Restored. The Worldview Weekend Hour begins right now.